Hello, I'm Donna Williams and I'm going to read you the fourth installment from the book Nobody Nowhere. The park was a magical place and I'd lie in the middle of the seesaw making it go up and down. On the swing I could make Lena's backyard appear and disappear, and that made me laugh. Sometimes she'd come outside and see me, and she'd come to the park or ask me to come over, and I'd laugh, keep swinging higher and higher. Look, no one can touch me. Lena and her mother spoke only Italian, and I loved to hear her and her mother talk. They had gentle voices. Even when authoritative, they didn't sound hard. I loved the smell of their house. There were so many things to see and to see through. Crystal glasses lined these polished, streaky teak cabinets and stood upon mirrored shelves as though deservedly they were on some kind of a stage. And the floor was smooth and shiny like silk. It looked good enough to eat. Everything seemed nice to touch, and I'd rub my cheeks against the curtains and the cabinets and the seat covers and the glass doors. Lena's mother thought I was beautiful, and she fed me pieces of squid, and I liked the pieces of squid because I liked Lena's mother. And when she would laugh, her eyes would dance and her whole body seemed to roll with the laugh. I liked Lena. She had an older brother who was a bully, and I understood that. Lena's mother asked what had happened to her plants because they had bites taken out of them. I turned my head away and tried not to laugh. "Did you do that?" gestured Lena's mother. I looked into her eyes and my eyes didn't lie. My favourite tree lived in the park, and I'd climb it and hang upside down by my knees and swing, usually from the highest branch that I could find. Sometimes I would sing and sometimes I would hum, and as long as everything moved to the rhythm, I was happy. One particular day I was swinging from my tree and a girl approached me and she began to talk to me as I swung. Her name was Carol. I guess I looked quite strange to her as I was wearing only a white smock-like nightie which was falling over my head, leaving the rest of me exposed. And my face must have shocked her even more because I'd painted it with patterns using my mother's makeup. I thought I was beautiful, but I must have looked a mess. Sometimes I'd suddenly flip myself out of the tree in some dramatic final swing. I'd let my legs go from the tree and go flying before landing with a thud on the ground. Sometimes I'd wind myself and I'd often be scratched, but it made no difference. I'd get to my feet and continue on to the next adventure. Mine was a rich world, but like many rich people, I was very alone. I went with this giant of a girl. I was fascinated by her animation, and though I hardly understood a word she said, I heard the words, I probably copied them, but only her actions and their ability to capture me had any significance. As long as things were new to me, I was captured. We went to Carol's house. She had a mother, and her mother was shocked about the state of my colourful face. I was surprised by her shock. I thought the colours were delightful, and they were laughing, and people often did in my presence, except my mother. Later people would say they were laughing with me, not at me, but I wasn't laughing, so I copied them and I made what they said correct. And then they'd laugh at my strange laugh, and I'd laugh with them, and they would think I was amused and amusing. This proved useful when I was older, and I'd get invited back again. I was learning to perform. Carol's mother got a flannel, and she washed my face, my hands, my legs, and there I was, all brand new. She placed a drink in front of me. I looked at it, waiting to be told what to do. "You can drink it," said a voice. It was a sentence of words, a statement. I looked at the glass and at the mother and at the girl. The girl sitting across the table lifted her glass and drank. I was her mirror. I copied her. "Where does she live?" said a voice. "I don't know. Found her in the park," said another voice. "I think you'd better take her back there," said the mother. Fear came and took me away, and I stopped being there. Carol took me by the hand. She led me back to the park. My eyes, like a camera, captured the moment. She lived in another world within that house of hers, and I wanted so much to be a part of it. I glared at her, betrayed. The world was throwing me out. I discovered choice, and I wanted to live in Carol's world, in Carol's house. "Where do you live?" came her voice as she slipped away from my reality. I stared at her, and I screamed inside with frustration. No sound came out. I watched the person who'd been Carol wave goodbye and say words, and for many years I'd wondered if she was real, for nobody had until then so totally held me within the world. And this stranger, who I only ever met once, was to change my life. And she became the girl in the mirror, and later I became Carol. As I got older, I'd compulsively bring home kitten after kitten, replaying the way that Carol had taken me home. And I'd wait and wonder when my mother would become Carol's mother. And she never did. I finally gave up waiting for Carol to come back to the park. I didn't want to swing from my tree anymore. It hurt too much. So I began spending almost all of my time alone, looking at the mirror. There was a long mirror in my bedroom, and in its reflection I could see my brother's bedroom door. My brother never came through this door. I assumed that either he didn't sleep in there or he made his way out through the other door leading through the back porch. Had he come in there, I'm sure I would have screamed, because my room was my world, and my mother, though unwanted and uninvited, was the only intruder whose presence was tolerated. In the day, I wanted the door shut. In the night, I wanted it open, to keep an eye on anything which might enter. Carol came in through the mirror. Carol looked just like me, but the look in her eyes betrayed her identity. It was Carol, all right. And I began to talk to her, and she copied me. I was angry. I didn't expect her to do that, and my expression asked her why, and hers asked me. I figured the answer must have been a secret. I decided that Carol understood that no one else was allowed to see me communicating with her, and this was her way of protecting me. I began to whisper to her, putting my face very close to hers, and wondering why she didn't turn to hear. When I was not in front of the mirror, Carol would disappear, and I'd feel deserted, and when I walked in front of it, she'd come back. And I'd try to look behind the mirror to find if she'd gone through that door that I could see in the background. It wasn't the door to my brother's room after all. It was the door to Carol's house. That room I saw her in the mirror was only a room between her world and my world. Now I understood the secret. If I could get through that room, if I could leave with her into her world, the only problem was how to get into the mirror. I realized I had to walk straight into the mirror if I was ever to get into that room. And so for the next 4 years, I tried. I'd walk straight into it, and I'd wonder why I couldn't get through. And the anxiety of my inner battle was becoming unbearable. I could say words, but I wanted to communicate. I wanted to express something. I wanted to let something out. The anxiety would have been so easy to just give in to, whereby I'd again lose all awareness of self and my surroundings. I'd cry and I'd look desperately into Carol's eyes, reflected in the mirror, wanting to know the answers to the way out of my mental prison. I began to hit myself in frustration, slapping my own face, biting myself, pulling my hair. If my mother had not been so good at it, the abuse I poured out on myself would have put her efforts to shame. I eventually believed that it was the resistance that I felt just before hitting the mirror, and that's what was stopping me getting into Carol's world. I realized in retrospect how true it was. It was certainly some uncontrollable inner resistance that was stopping me from getting into the world in general. I began to sit in a huddled ball inside of the cupboard. I closed my eyes and try hard to lose all sensation of my own existence, so that way I could get into Carol's world in my mind. And I became angry at any need to go to the toilet, to eat, any call to participate in the family by fetching things, which by now was my main household role. In short, my humanness, my mere physical existence was my failing.